Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be getting into Neville Goddard's procedure on having an outer body experience, and we're going to cover the mantras that he used in the back of the Wilshire E-Bell Theater with his VIP students. And the purpose of this, why Neville Goddard did this, is to speed up your manifestation abilities. Because once you have an outer body experience and you connect to source, you connect to God, you become God for that split second, or you can't even really measure it with time. But once you connect with that God source and what we came from, and you become consciousness, then your ability to believe new things to come into your life and believe in the impossible becomes more simple for you. So you no longer have these blocks and these barriers and all of these things that are holding back your manifestations, because we were trained a certain way from childhood to believe that you need a logical sequence of events for things to take place in your life in order for you to get money, in order for you to have a good relationship or a good career. You have to go through all these steps, but in reality, you don't really need these things. Those are just beliefs that have been planted or downloaded in your mind from your childhood and the way that you were raised. But Neville Goddard had this procedure where you skip this step entirely and actually skip the entire 7 years of meditation that it takes to connect to consciousness. Neville Goddard created a mantra and an actual exercise to take you to that next level. And in this video, I'm going to be covering my grandfather's experience with Neville Goddard and his outer body experience. And I'm also going to share my outer body experience that I had when I used this technique. And I'm going to be reading out of my book, You Are the Way. I'm going to expound a lot further the things that weren't mentioned in the book. I'm going to touch up on those and expound on those. So let's begin right here. Neville Goddard demonstrated this phenomenon with an outer body experience exercise, being one with everything and connecting to source, becoming consciousness. So to his VIP group, through an exercise, what he achieved with them in only one afternoon is usually reported by Buddhist monks after 7 years of deep meditation practice. And this is something that the Buddhist monks do. They meditate for days on end, for years and years and years, to have this outer body connection with consciousness and becoming God and downloading all this information and just releasing your ego, releasing yourself from the three-dimensional holographic world and going within yourself and becoming God and manifesting anything that you want. So first, the members were told to sit comfortable in a circle of chairs. So this is the exercise right here. This is the first thing Neville Goddard did with his students, and my grandfather being one of them. First, the members were told to sit comfortable in a circle of chairs. Then a blanket was placed over each one's head. Voluntarily, of course, sitting like this, the outer world muted, okay? So they're sitting there, they put these blankets over their heads, and then they would repeat this mantra that Neville Goddard gave them for hours until they fell into a deep trance-like state, which is theta. You're going into theta at this point in this meditation, disconnecting yourself from the three-dimensional world and repeating this mantra right here. Be still and know that I am God. So this is the mantra that they repeated. So this is the mantra that they repeated over and over and over again within this circle of chairs with these blankets over their heads, disconnected from the three-dimensional holographic world, and they're in theta at this point. So this procedure pursued the goal of creating a feeling like that of a moth merging with light. The insect notices the heat, but it is so euphoric under the spell of the light that it can't help but move closer and closer until it melts into it. And even if that means being burned up as a result, this procedure is like resetting the mind. As in our example of amnesia, we lay everything down to our everlasting core of being. And in this technique and in this exercise with Neville Goddard, everyone was allowed to choose their own fateful object, the imaginative lamp. And my grandfather told me this in detail, which wasn't covered in the book here, where he chose a weapon where he would die to his old self, die to his physical body, and become supernatural by entering the spiritual world and then connecting to consciousness. So that was the next step here. And then after that, my grandfather described to me that he then removed his skin spiritually in the spiritual world, not the physical world. In the spiritual world, he removed his skin like it was a garment, like clothing. He then took it off, and then he left his body, went up into the clock in the room that they were in the back of the Wilshire Ebell Theater. He went inside this clock, and then he entered the city itself. Then he went into a building. Then he went into the entire city of Los Angeles. And then he was looking at the city of Los Angeles, and he became the city of Los Angeles. And then he could feel every different movement that was happening within the city. And then he became the entire world, and then the entire universe. And then he connected with God himself, this ultimate state of consciousness. And then I cover the rest of it in this book. My grandfather realized at this point that nothing existed outside of himself, that he himself was everything, that the whole vast world is him pushed out. This experience was no imagination. It was no imaginal act. What Neville performed with his VIP members was, in fact, a provoked near-death experience. There are thousands and thousands of people who have experienced and reported similar feelings and occurrences. So essentially, within this meditation of repeating the mantra, going under the blanket, and having this self-provoked death, which is not an imaginal act, it's not going to come true in your three-dimensional world, but essentially what happened is my grandfather realized that we ourselves are God, that we are the consciousness of God. We are pure imagination, the substance of our reality. We can consciously control our lives and manipulate the world with our imagination, because we are what we experience. We are what we experience, and everything is us pushed out. So when you connect to God, the God source, you realize that everything that is happening to you is based on your inner dialogue, your inner talking, your imagination. The images in your mind and the feeling states are being pushed out into the world and creating your 3D holographic world from within you. And you can create this, you can manipulate this, but understanding this and actually experiencing this to be true speeds up your manifestation process. And then a lot of your blocks go away because you realize that anything is possible, that you are actually the creator of everything, and you are God himself, just in this physical form, this body, this individual body. But once you disconnect from that, you realize that everything is you. You're just connected to this physical body, and that's what gives you the blocks, and everything that you were trained to believe and consent to be true in your world is what's holding back your manifestation abilities and your instant manifestation abilities, any manifestation abilities. And I also had a very similar experience to this when I was in solitary confinement, when I was in prison. And I spent hours and hours and days and months in solitary confinement. And I spent most of my day, maybe 8 to 12 hours a day, in deep meditation. And I started exploring the mind. It started disconnecting myself and repeating this mantra using these techniques. I didn't use the self-provoked death, but I stayed in this meditation for so long. And I think that the self-provoked death they were able to do that within like a couple hours, but it took me longer than that. But I had a lot of time to where I wanted to explore consciousness and explore my mind, and then go deep within myself and connect to God more naturally. So I did the same, but I repeated this mantra, be still and know that I am God. And I would sit in like a half lotus position with my back completely straight. And I did other positions as well. But what happened was I disconnected. I had the same sort of experience where I took off my skin like it was a garment. And then I released myself completely, went outside of my body, went into the prison, went into the city, went into the entire state, and then the entire world, and then the entire universe, just like my grandfather had. I connected to everything. Then all of a sudden, I got this quick download of all of this information. Like it was like almost like a maze in my mind where everything just connected. Like everything just all of a sudden just went into one ball, and then completely explained everything, that this source, where we came from, why we were created, and everything was just instantly downloaded in my mind. And within this download, I got the information that I actually created this myself. And then I erased my memory of entering this, like a holographic world that I created, and then erased my memory of entering it. That way it would feel real to me. Because otherwise, just like virtual reality. Imagine that you created a virtual reality game yourself, like a real 3D high-tech simulated game, just like this world. And then you put goggles on, you put your VR goggles on, and then you erased your memory of putting those goggles on. And then you're within this hologram, this high-tech simulated game. You don't realize you even have goggles on. So you're going to feel as if the game is real. But really, you created it and then erased your memory of putting the goggles on. And that's the instant download that I got. And I received this information instantly. I received the information instantly that I created this high-tech simulated game, but I am everything. I was connected to you and everyone watching this video. I connected to everyone. We all exist as one consciousness, one being that created this high-tech simulated game, and we live within it. And the reason we created this was to live a fulfilling life, to actually experience a life, and that's why we erased our own memory of entering the hologram and why it was created. So you're really not supposed to figure everything out, but just know that everything is perfect exactly the way that it is. But if your life isn't the way that you want it to be, you can manipulate it by changing your inner dialogue, changing what you're thinking about, and changing the images in your mind and the feeling states by living in the end, by focusing on the end. And then the hologram is designed to bring this thing to you, whatever that feeling state is, because that's how it operates. That's how it's controlled, through your feeling states, what you feel to be true and what you already have. So that's what the law of assumption is. It's like a hack into the hologram that creates everything and brings everything to you, is by assuming that you already have something, even when you really don't have it in the holographic world. If you feel it to be true, it will be brought to you. So that's what imagining is. That's what affirmations do. That's what scripting does. It creates images in your mind of already having something. And that's the hack within the hologram that you created, that we created as God in the beginning. In the beginning, we created it just like this, and that is the hack to attracting and bringing things to you. You can either do it through a logical sequence of events and have it happen naturally, and then you feel it, or you can feel it now and get it 1,000 times faster. And there's also another hack to this, and that's why I create my sleep meditations. My sleep meditations create a feeling state within you as you're going into your subconscious level, or the subconscious mind, as you're drifting into sleep. And this is the time of receptivity where you actually trick the hologram to bring things to you. And that's why we have so many great results and testimonials using my sleep affirmations, because it's like sleep hypnotherapy, but it really does work with impressing the subconscious mind with you already having something, with you already having what you desire. And that feeling state you're taking into this drift as you're falling asleep, and then it's creating an entirely new world for you. A new hologram is created and brought all of these things to you. So I'm going to leave that card up on the screen for you with my sleep meditation. So click on that, pick the meditation that you want to fall asleep with, whatever you're desiring. You can choose which one you want to fall asleep with and watch what happens in your life. I'm going to put that card on the screen. That is the end of this video. But also, if you want to get a copy of this book, you can find that link in the description below. I believe it's the third link down. Or if you want a free course, that's the very first link in the description below, to develop the muscle of the mind, to be able to more easily impress the subconscious mind and hack your reality. All right, guys, I love you, and I will see you in the next one. And I will be covering more chapters from my book, You Are the Way, very, very soon. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.